Our keynote speaker tonight I'm super excited about. If you haven't heard a sermon from Dr. Hargis, you need to, and so I'm glad you're all here. So Dr. Hargis, come on up. He's going to be our keynote speaker.
I wanted to just talk a little bit about Jeff Vaughn, and there's some in the room who don't know who Jeff Vaughn is, and I wanted to just kind of like introduce you a little bit to him. And this isn't a talk. It turned off. Oh my goodness. This is gonna be okay. We'll change.
I think it keeps dying.
Do you know what? While he's changing out, I wanted to just kind of like just show a little bit. This is the shirt that I wear nowadays. If anybody's seen me, I've been wearing these shirts for a year, but you may not know why I wear it, and it's because Jeff actually gave me a shirt years ago, a few years ago, and it was these Pima Fire shirts. Does anybody have one of these? This is like these are awesome, and you can see this one is ripped up now. It's got some bleach on it. It's got holes in it. It's got stains on it. But it just kind of shows how much I love this shirt. And in fact, I love this shirt so much, I actually found the little tag that shows the number of the item that you can actually order. And so I got one of these shirts, and you can order them through Trophies and Tees and stuff like that. And so, but I remember wearing this shirt all the time. And then people would come up to me and they'd say, hey, you still you left a few blankets at our house, and so if you wanted to come over to our house and pick them up or something like that, I'd be looking at her like, what are you talking about? And then I looked, oh yeah, that's right, I have to represent Pima Fire, but you know, just it's just part of who Jeff was, is the type of influence that he left on me that I'm literally wearing all the time, and I wanted to talk for those of you who don't know who Jeff was. He was a longtime leader of both Graham and Greenlee counties EMS systems, and last year, as Brandon mentioned, he was the keynote speaker. And gave one of the most beautiful talks that I've ever heard from this pulpit. And so, and over the past year, we lost Jeff to cancer. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about his influence on us and on me. Jeff was truly one of the most kind and unique individuals that I've ever met in my life. And I knew this subject was going to be really hard to be able to talk about. And you'll have to forgive me if it kind of comes close to the surface when I talk about this. But as I've done a lot of thinking about what to say, I had the opportunity to be able to talk to a lot of people about their experiences with Jeff, and everybody had these amazing stories about things that they did with Jeff or adventures that they had with Jeff. In fact, I asked them about like what they remember about Jeff, and it usually was that everybody would start off with a story or an adventure that they had with him, and it was so fun hearing all these stories and all these adventures that people had with Jeff. And I remember one that Robert Ketchum told me that I'd like to relate to you. It was years ago that Jeff and Robert were working as paramedics, even before Morenci was known as Gila Health Resources. But they were working together, and they got a call out for a group. There was a group of teens, and these are these troubled teens that kind of go out into the desert and have this long experience in the desert where they kind of like find themselves for the troubled teens. And Jeff and Robert got this call out to be able to help a young girl who had fallen and hurt her neck. And she was and she was located way in the remote section in what's called the Little Dutch Blue. Is that right? And I'm glad to have Robert right here to be able to check this story with me. But they got called way out there into this remote area, and so DPS was unable to land them at the site, and so they took them as close as they could. And there was two other individuals, Pat Sexton and Wayne Spivey were along with you. Is that right? So 4 individuals got dropped off about 500 yards from the scene of where these teens were, and so they made their way down, and they find this group, and there they have this kind of inflated neck protection on this girl to be able to protect her neck, and they need to get this girl out of this canyon, and they're deep within a canyon. There's tall trees that are all around, and so this is going to be a real challenge for them to get her out. And so their plan was to be able to. So they put a sea collar on her, and they put her onto a board, and they began to make plans to be able to move her out. Well, it was obvious that DPS couldn't get to them now, and so it was Pat Sexton that kind of like made the decision to go ahead and call Davis Monthan and say if you could get like a pave hawk over there. And a pave hawk is something similar to a Black Hawk in its size, a really big helicopter to be able to come over. But the thought was that it was late enough at night that they weren't going to be able to get out. And so they had kind of made plans to be able to stay that night with this teenager and then transfer her out in the morning, when all of a sudden they hear the chopper coming in. This is a sound of a big helicopter that's coming in. And immediately Robert says to the group of teenagers, he says, all right, everybody pile up all your stuff, put tarps over your stuff, protect your stuff, because when this chopper hovers above us, you're going to be chasing your stuff for miles in any direction. And so the teens followed his directions, and they did. They were standing on top of their stuff, and here comes this pave hawk, and it hovered right over the scene of where they were. And Robert remembers that there was so much. He was trying to protect this girl in the sea collar from all of this wind that was pounding down on top of them from this pave hawk, and then down from the pave hawk comes the commander, the military commander, and he explains that what he's going to do is be able to. They're going to hoist her up to the helicopter. And usually they put kind of like a tie line on to be able to like stabilize the
Just put a tail on the Stokes basket. They wanted a tag line.
It was on a Stokes basket, that's right. They put a tail line on it to stabilize it, but he wanted a tag line. And so he actually wanted a rope hanging down onto the ground to be able to stabilize this basket. Now, so Robert was the one that was actually holding that line. And as they slowly pulled her out of that situation, the helicopter, just showing you how incredible or how much force was being used, it shot up with a backdraft, and 10 feet of line went through Robert's hands, just completely burning both of his hands as it just went through. And then when the girl gets up there safely to the helicopter, to Jeff's dismay, because I think it was his rope, they actually cut the rope right off, and then the rope falls down, and like I'm sure Jeff had a few choice words about them cutting his nice rope. And then the military commander explains to the group that he goes, we don't have medical up on the helicopter, so we're going to have to take somebody up with us. And that's when Jeff immediately says, that's me, I'm senior medic, I'm going to go up in this helicopter. So Jeff hops onto this jungle penetrator, and this jungle penetrator is kind of like this big metal device with arms that kind of unfold that allows you to go down into the jungle, and so Jeff hops on top of this jungle penetrator, and they begin to hoist him up. as a medical representative. Well, there's this huge oak tree that's right next to the scene, and Jeff floats right into the branches of this oak tree as this helicopter tries to pull him out. And the helicopter is trying to gently pull him, up, and he gets like wedged against this tree and is stuck in the branches and kind of gets hung up there, and the helicopter's being gentle with Jeff. And so they do it for, they just keep on doing it for like 4 times, trying to ease him up through the branches, but they can't do it because he's stuck. And so then the helicopter kind of like eases out and like pulls him away from this oak tree and all these branches. And then trying to get him away, and then they go up again, and Jeff goes right back into the branches, right where he was before. And Jeff is thinking now, he goes like, this helicopter, it's me versus this helicopter, the people in this helicopter making the decisions versus me on this rope. And he thinks that they're just going to cut this rope and cut me loose and just like drop me like a stone. And so he's worried about that. But then after a couple more thumps, then all of a sudden you hear that helicopter just kind of churn up, and they take Jeff just right through the branches. And all of a sudden there's just this explosion of branches like from below, and this cascade as Jeff shoots up, scraping his way all the way through this tree and then all the way up. Now, then they let the jungle penetrator down, and they allow the military commander to get on. And Robert says that as they raised the military commander up through the branches, that he didn't touch a single leaf as he ascended towards. It was the same location, but not a single leaf was touched, which is kind of curious. And so now Robert and his crew and Wayne and Pat are like down there. They're left behind, and they get explained that DPS can't come for them, and so they're going to have to stay the night there. They have one MRE. They go down to the river. They drink river water to be able to get enough hydration. But they have to go down to the river to get water, and then they split this MRE between the 3 of them. And they make a fire, but the warmth in their heart was remembering this experience that they had pulling Jeff through this. They saw Jeff pull through this tree, and laughing about that all night long. And so I wanted to like be able to like share, especially for those who are new here, those new EMTs, and those are entering this wonderful field. And I think Jeff, if he were here, he would have me do this. And that is like just kind of like remembering what because Jeff always was very generous about those who were coming up in their training and were new in their training. He always took every effort to be able to teach those. But the lesson is that when you're young and when you're new at something, that you should just get on that jungle penetrator. In other words, just hop onto it, okay? And strap in and get yourself prepared, because it's going to be the adventure of a lifetime, and it's going to be really rough as you go up. But the memories that you create are going to last the rest of your lifetime. And you're going to be able to share them, and share them with those that are coming up, because they'll be so blessed by that experience. And there was one quote that I shared with Jeff, and he really liked this, and I'd like to share it with you, especially those that are new. And that's to do something difficult with your life when you're young and you have the strength, and you'll have your whole life to bless others with your experience. I'm so blessed to have known Jeff, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity that I have to be able to share a memory about him, and be able to have this night to, like, in some small way honor him. And I thank you for this experience. So.